And that is a good segue into what I'd like to talk about next, which is a client. So I'm going to share, hopefully, an anonymous dashboard here about a recent project that we got some amazing results from. So this client's in the real estate space, and they have listings. When I was brought on, they were doing okay. They weren't doing poorly by any stretch, but there was some awesome room for growth there. And what we noticed was that, so they had developed a map for listings. And if anybody's done home purchasing or like research real estate, sometimes you don't look for just the house that's for sale. You want to know kind of more about the area. You want to know about you want to know what the ones around your house have sold for. So they went in with them and their developer had this idea that they were going to create a site that listed every potential URL in Nova Scotia, so that they wanted to rank well for those. Now they did everything right with that in mind. So they wanted to drive traffic no matter how you were researching the URL. But what was happening is, if anybody's again familiar with real estate, when you have a listing, it's got a set shelf life. Especially in the Halifax's market right now, things are not staying on the market for very long. So when a listing goes live, that page might only exist for a week, maybe a few days, maybe 2 weeks, not very long at all. And these old URLs, the ones that were for the address, had history behind them. They had the ability to exist longer on the internet. So they tended to outrank. So they would get 2 results in Google's search, usually on the first page. Now with real estate as well, you have to compete with the local 3-pack. Most people, when they're searching an address, they're looking for directions. So you're going to get those map results at the very top. But below that is usually, if something's for sale, is going to be a real estate listing. So we were trying to get into the top of the regular listings. And we were having this issue with we'll call them the address pages, outranking our listing pages. So what had happened is these address pages were, they all had an XML sitemap. And Nova Scotia is not a big place. For our UK friend, it's probably I think it's the second smallest province in Nova Scotia. But that's still a lot of area, a lot of pieces of land broken up, a lot of civic addresses. So they had a massive group of sitemaps. And I forget the exact limit on XML sitemaps. If somebody remembers that number, feel free to ping it in the chat for everybody. But the XML, so they had created a bunch of XML sitemaps that were constantly pinging Google to say, pay attention to these address-based URLs. And so what we did, first step we did to clean things up there is we removed those. So we got rid of those sitemaps. We didn't want the URLs gone because we still wanted people to discover them if there wasn't a listing. And you'll see, we started working with these guys in January, right in here. I don't know, I'll use this map here. Around February, we had come to our conclusion, and by the end of March, we had gotten most of the pieces in place. So for the original ask, which was removing those sitemaps for the actual listings, or sorry, for the addresses, and kept the listing URL address in there as well. We also used Search Console and Google Data Studio to crunch the numbers on what was driving traffic. And what was driving the majority of traffic for this real estate place was addresses. But with Search Console and with search data, it was hard to kind of pinpoint because, like I said, things have a certain shelf life. So what we did, we used Data Studio to process this information. And we filtered out the address-based URL. So with a little bit of regex, we said we want everything that starts with a number, has a space, and then has text. And that's the general format for people doing addresses. And with that in mind, we didn't pay attention to a specific address, but we were able to pay attention to a specific group. So we were able to get that the listing sitemap removed, or sorry, the address sitemap removed. And to focus on the listing one, we still had the issue of the the history behind these address-based URLs. So we were able to use the canonical tag, which we're just going over with Fola, to focus the attention. Now, this was a little bit more of a process, and it involved a lot of work with the developers. So what we were trying to do there was make sure that when there was an active listing, so when they added something new, by default, the address URL canonicaled to the listing URL. And then as well, when that expired, it went back the other way. And by about April, all these pieces were in play. Now, we haven't changed the amount of URLs on the site at all. And we're lucky too, because March was a really weird month. I don't know what it's like in the UK, but everyone over here in Canada, that's when stuff started to kind of go crazy, and we were all in lockdown. It wasn't a whole lot of people just looking to buy a new home. Well, a lot of people looking. We did have a spike in people checking things out, but we didn't have a spike in people actually following through, because who wants to go view a house when we have no idea how this thing spreads, etc. But come April, things were starting to kind of get normal, and people had been in their houses for a little while, and maybe they wanted to upgrade. But what we were able to do is increase this traffic quite a bit. And you'll see this, the light blue line here is the seasonal traffic from the year before. Pretty normal year for us. They have pretty consistent seasonal spikes, but we were able to increase that traffic quite a bit. In fact, in the previous month, we were able to take it up 190% in organic sessions. And then even this month to date, we're up even more. We're at 230% increase in organic sessions. So to break this down a little bit, to give you guys some context, it's interesting too, because when we removed the address-based URLs from the site, they actually got more traffic. Because what happened is we stopped getting two types of results in the search results. Once a listing went live, the canonical was in place, there was no attention brought to the address URLs. You'll see we've got these segmented by listings. You'll see right around April, things start to spike up. Blue being the listing-based URLs, they just blew right up. But you also see that this reddish area is those address-based URLs. And the space that they had, so we had 9,700, we went up to 15,000. Now, a little bit of this be attributed to the seasonal, but because we're not focusing on the pages we don't want to rank, they still serve a purpose, and their intent was a lot better. So when you got to an address-based URL versus a listing-based URL, you didn't get the information that you would get from any other competing real estate agents. So with that kind of work, we were able to really focus the attention of Google and drive a whole lot more traffic. There's also increased position. We did some things with search results and got some stronger information. But and Nadia's asking, is that traffic increase based on increase in click-through rates? It is a combination of an increase in click-through rate, which we were able to affect by playing with the titles and descriptions. And specifically because the address, the listing-based URLs have a lot more rich information. The description is a lot more salesy. It's not like this is the MLS number for this. But what happened is we got an increase in click-through, which led to an increase in clicks. We got an increase in position as well, which helped the click-through rate and the clicks. And like I say, here's the click-through rate. Now, this isn't directly affected by, once we were able to focus that attention, we did do some things with the search results. So what we did was we added structured data to all these listing pages. So we got things like the price in the actual search results. We stayed away from those standard formulaic meta descriptions. So people would have like MLS number and then like those details, like 3-bedroom, blah, blah, blah. But the description for a home is a lot, when a salesperson, when a real estate agent writes this description, they're trying to sell it to somebody. So by using that description in the actual meta description, and then it would show up in the search results, we got a higher click-through rate, which with time led to a higher position, which then led to a higher click-through rate, more clicks. So it snowballed into a pile of great traffic. You'll also see average position went down significantly. And this is only for address-based URLs. This isn't including like MLS or anything else that they're trying to go after, like they have a campaign for blog content as well. Also based on the absence of address-based URLs. What's that? Is the traffic, okay. Also based on the absence of address-based URLs, yes. So we what happened is those address-based URLs would show up in search results when there wasn't a listing. But when there was a listing, we focused the attention using canonical to the listing-based URLs.